Hello, welcome to Pediatric Simplified. In today's video, we are going to discuss about vitamin D. What is vitamin D? What are the sources of vitamin D? What is the structure of vitamin D? What are its functions and mechanism of action in body? Let's start. Vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin, and other example of fat-soluble vitamins are vitamin A, E and K. Scientific researchers have shown that vitamin D is actually a steroid. Chemical structure wise, it is a secosteroid. Because its structure is similar to a steroid, its action is also like to that of a hormone. Common people know vitamin D to be a factor that strengthens bone. Well, that is right, but vitamin D's function is not only limited to bones. It performs various other functions across cells on the body, and we are going to discuss all about it in the coming slides. How vitamin D was discovered? There was a bone deformity disease in children which has some peculiar characteristic features, and this disease was named as rickets. In the year 1919, rickets was linked to deficiency of a dietary factor, and scientists also show that when in a child there is decreased exposure to sunlight, the child is more likely to suffer from rickets. Later in the year 1922, scientists identified this dietary factor from cod liver oil and named it as vitamin D. They also found that when sunlight fell on skin of an individual, it synthesized vitamin D also. That's why it is called as sunshine vitamin. What is the chemical structure of vitamin D? Vitamin D, as we discussed previously, is chemically a secosteroid. Because of its structure, it acts like a hormone. What hormone does inside our body is, it will go and attach to the receptor. Likewise, vitamin D has also receptors across various cells. Vitamin D acts through these receptors. That's why action of vitamin D is more like a hormone. It is the only vitamin that acts like a hormone. There is another alternative name for vitamin D also. It is calciferol. What are the types of vitamin D? Medical professionals usually know two types of vitamin D. Vitamin D2 and D3. But actually there are 5 types of vitamin based on its chemical structure. Vitamin D1 is a 1:1 mixture of ergocalciferol and lumisterol. Vitamin D2 is ergocalciferol. Vitamin D2 or ergocalciferol is present in plant sources of food and fungal sources of food also. Vitamin D3 is cholecalciferol. Cholecalciferol is present in animal sources of food and it is synthesized in the skin from sunlight. Many people don't know that the vitamin D that is synthesized in the skin from sunlight is actually vitamin D3 or cholecalciferol. Then what is vitamin D4? It is 22-dihydroergocalciferol, and vitamin D5 is cytocalciferol. Now out of all these 5 vitamin D, vitamin D2 and D3 are clinically and biologically relevant. They both have similar structure, similar function, only they differ is by a side chain. Primary sources of vitamin D. There are 2 primary sources of vitamin D. One is diet and another is sunlight. In the diet, vitamin D can be present in naturally available foods or in fortified foods or as food supplements. Through the sunlight, how we get vitamin D is when UVB ray of sunlight falls on skin of an individual, it synthesizes vitamin D. So how much sunlight is essential or needed for adequate synthesis of vitamin D inside body? It is around 5 to 30 minutes of sunlight either daily or at least 2 times a week. Between 10 am to 4 pm on exposed part of the body like face, arms, legs which are not covered and without application any sunscreen. Remember this thing that when a sunscreen of SPF 15 or more is applied on the skin, it prevents vitamin D synthesis. It prevents the UVB light to penetrate the skin. That's why sunscreen reduces vitamin D synthesis. Another interesting thing here to notice is that whenever a person receives sunlight through a glass window, this glass window filters out UVB light. That's why this sunlight is also not appropriate for synthesis of vitamin D. So the exposure to sunlight should be direct. Here is a fun fact about source of vitamin D. Cod liver oil is the richest source of vitamin D. And sunlight is the cheapest source of vitamin D. Cheapest as in every individual can afford sunlight or avail sunlight. It is freely available to everyone. To get vitamin D from diet, not everyone is rich enough to get cod liver oil or meat or fish, etc. But everyone can access sunlight. That is why sunlight is the cheapest and best source of vitamin D. What are the sources of vitamin D? As we discussed in the previous slide, in the dietary sources, it can be naturally occurring food, fortified food or supplement. In naturally occurring food, first one is cod liver oil or fish oil. Cod liver oil is the richest source of vitamin D, and not only vitamin D, it is packed with all fat-soluble vitamin like A, E and K also. Fatty fish like salmon, tuna, sardine also has a good amount of vitamin D. Mushrooms, especially the mushroom which are UV light treated to increase its vitamin D content, are packed with vitamin D. Milk and dairy products like milk fat or ghee, cheese and cream are good source of vitamin D also. Liver meat and meat. Here I have specially mentioned about liver meat. Liver is an organ where vitamin D is stored. That's why liver meat is rich in vitamin D. Another source of vitamin D is egg yolk or yellow portion of the egg. Egg yolk is rich in fat. That's why it is rich in vitamin A, D, E and K also. Chicken and turkey are also a good source of vitamin D. What about fortified foods? In fortified foods, first one is fortified cereal or ready to eat breakfast. Second is fortified plant milk like fortified soya milk, oat milk, etc. Fortified cereal and fortified plant milk are more important in case of vegans. Vegans don't consume animal product like animal milk also, and they consume plant milk, and plant milk is deficient in vitamin D. So for the vegans to not get vitamin D deficiency, they should take fortified soya milk and oat milk and fortified cereal also. Another fortified food is fortified formula milk of infants. Some formula milk of infants will contain vitamin D. Then fortified yogurt, fortified orange juice also have vitamin D. Supplements. Capsules, syrups and granules are available in the market in the pharmacy store as a vitamin D supplement. Then endogenous synthesis of vitamin D happens in the presence of sunlight in the skin. That is also a good source of vitamin D. RDA of vitamin D or recommended dietary allowance of vitamin D. This is how much vitamin D a person should consume per day. This differs as per age of an individual. If an individual is less than 1 year old or infant, the required vitamin D is 400 international unit per day. If a person is between 1 year to 70 year of age, then it is 600 international unit per day, and in more than 70-year-old it is 800 international unit per day, that is highest. There is a conversion formula to convert weight into international unit, that is 1 microgram of vitamin D equals to 40 international unit. Another interesting thing here to notice is that human breast milk is deficient in vitamin D. That's why CDC recommends that all the infants who are exclusively breastfed should be supplemented with 400 international unit of vitamin D. for babies who are on formula feeds. Formula milk have some amount of vitamin D, so the required amount of supplement of vitamin D should be calculated based on how much formula and at what concentration of vitamin D child is taking. But you need to remember that just because some formula food are fortified with vitamin D does not make it any better than breast milk. Breast milk is still the best food for a baby, for its overall development and for giving its immunity to protect against infection and diseases. So that is why ideal thing to do is give breast milk along with that vitamin D supplement. Then metabolism and activation of vitamin D. How vitamin D is activated inside the body. As we discussed previously, there are two sources of vitamin D. One is diet and another is sunlight. When sunlight, especially UVB ray of light, falls on skin of an individual, it converts 7-dehydrocholesterol into pre-vitamin D3. Now where from this 7-dehydrocholesterol came? From dietary cholesterol. When a person takes cholesterol in the diet, it goes into the skin and converts into 7-dehydrocholesterol. And when UVB ray of sunlight falls on this 7-dehydrocholesterol, it converts it into pre-vitamin D3. Then again this pre-vitamin D3 is a precursor of vitamin D3 and it converts into vitamin D3 or cholecalciferol. So the form of vitamin D that is synthesized in the skin is vitamin D3 or cholecalciferol. Now what about diet? In the diet, both vitamin D2 and D3 are present. D2 or ergocalciferol is present in plant source and fungal source. D3 or cholecalciferol is present in animal source of food. Now when this vitamin D or calciferol enters inside our body, it cannot function on its own because it is an inactive compound. It needs to be activated. And the process of activation involves hydroxylation and it is a two-step process. The first step of hydroxylation happens in the liver with the help of an enzyme called as 25-hydroxylase. This converts vitamin D or calciferol into 25-hydroxyvitamin D, the other name of which is calcidiol. It is called calcidiol because it has two hydroxy groups. When calcidiol goes into the kidney, there is another enzyme in the kidney called as 1-alpha-hydroxylase. 1-alpha-hydroxylase converts 25-hydroxyvitamin D into 1,25-dihydroxyvitamin D or calcitriol. Calcitriol, it is named so because it has three hydroxy groups. Calcitriol or 1,25-hydroxyvitamin D is an active form of vitamin D. It goes and acts on target tissue or target organs like bone, intestine, kidney, etc. One interesting thing to notice here is that 1-alpha-hydroxylase is not only limited to kidney, though major portion of 1-alpha-hydroxylase belong to kidney, but this enzyme is present in some amount in other cells of the body as well. The next is transport of vitamin D and its storage. Vitamin D cannot transport freely inside human body. It needs to bind to a protein. Either it binds to DBP or vitamin D binding protein or albumin for transport inside the body. Then how vitamin D is stored? As it is a fat-soluble vitamin, it is stored in fatty tissue and liver. Mechanism of action of vitamin D. Vitamin D, as we discussed previously, acts like a hormone. It goes to the target cell and as it is a fat-soluble vitamin, it can easily enter the cell membrane. And then it goes and bind to VDR or vitamin D receptor present inside the nucleus of target cell. After binding to VDR, it stimulates gene expression of certain genes and carries out its action. What are the functions of vitamin D in the body? Vitamin D carries out various functions inside the body, but here we are discussing about 5 important or primary functions of vitamin D. These functions are carried out when vitamin D goes and attaches to the target tissue or organ like intestine, kidney, bone, monocyte, macrophages, etc. What are the functions of vitamin D in the body? First is calcium homeostasis or maintaining calcium level in the serum and organs. Second is bone maintenance, maintaining the structure of the bone and its formation and remodeling. Next is immunomodulation or modulating immune system of the body. Fourth is growth and differentiation. And fifth is other functions. How calcium homeostasis happens with the help of vitamin D? Vitamin D goes to the intestine and here it increases absorption of calcium and phosphate. This occurs by upregulating a calcium binding protein in the intestine that helps in more uptake of calcium and phosphate. That's why serum level of calcium are maintained. Another way of doing so is through kidney. Vitamin D will go to the kidney and it will decrease the excretion of calcium and phosphate and increases the reabsorption of these minerals. That is another way of maintaining serum level of calcium and serum level of phosphate. This calcium is important in various functions inside the body. First is calcium maintains bone health because major mineral in the bone is calcium. Second is muscle health. In the absence of calcium, muscle will go spasm, which is called as hypocalcemic tetany. Hypocalcemic tetany occurs commonly in calcium deficiency and vitamin D deficiency also. So maintaining muscle health and muscle function is an important aspect of function of calcium. Calcium is also vital in maintaining cardiovascular system and regulating blood pressure of an individual. Next function come to bone maintenance. How vitamin D maintains structure of the bone? First thing is it makes calcium and phosphate available for mineralization of bone. That's why vitamin D promotes mineralization of bone. Also it modulates action of two cells. There are two cells present inside bone. One is osteoblast, one is osteoclast. Osteoblasts are responsible for formation of the bone and osteoclasts are responsible for remodeling of bone. Vitamin D acts on both osteoblasts and osteoclasts and modulate their action. That is how it maintains the structure and metabolism of bone. In case of deficiency of vitamin D, children will suffer from a bone deformity disease called rickets. And if vitamin D deficiency occurs in adults, it causes a disease called as osteomalacia. Next function of vitamin D is immunomodulation or modulating immune system. This function is carried out when vitamin D goes and attaches to monocyte and macrophage receptors. By doing so, it reduces autoimmunity and autoimmune diseases, and vitamin D also prevents asthma. Another interesting thing here to notice is that vitamin D upgrades level of antimicrobial peptides. These are the peptides which bind with microbes and kill microbes. That's why vitamin D protect an individual against infection and give immunity to an individual. In case of vitamin D deficiency, what will happen? A person will more likely be suffering from repeated respiratory infection and repeated pneumonia. Then action of vitamin D on various other cells results in growth and differentiation of cells. What are the other functions of vitamin D? One is neuromuscular function, another is prevention of inflammation. Vitamin D has some role in neuromuscular activity inside the body and it prevents inflammation in the body also. Thank you for watching this video. I hope this video was useful to you. If you like it, then hit the like button. If you have any suggestion or any comment, then please drop it in the comment box below. If you like my content, then subscribe to my channel. Thank you.